Y'all are great. Thank you. I appreciate y'all keeping me company. Today we're going to be talking about representing 3D figures. So yesterday we talked about what a 3D figure is and two different types of 3D figures. Oops. So today we're going to talk about 3D figures and ways that you can represent those 3D figures. Yesterday we talked about 4 different types of three-dimensional figures, and we looked at some pictures of those. And today we're going to look at 2 new ways that we can draw these. So the original way, or the way that you're probably used to seeing these, is with the drawing in the center here. And so you'll notice that's a 3D view where you can see kind of which way your 3D shape is oriented. And you'll notice the solid lines mean that that part of the shape is closest to you, whereas the dashed lines are farther away from you, or they would be normally hidden behind the shape. So the first thing we're going to talk about is if we break up our 3D figure into parts. This is what's called an orthographic view. And so you'll notice they've broken this up into several different parts. So I have, if I look from the top straight down at my figure, the base of that pyramid is a rectangle, so that's my major shape here. And then I notice that I would have where all these faces come together, I have edges. And if I'm looking straight down at the pyramid from above it, like I'm in a helicopter, then those faces will come together to create an X. If, on the other hand, I stood behind this figure, so I moved myself back here, I'm standing here looking at the pyramid from this side, or you'll notice if I was standing in the front and I was looking at the pyramid this direction, it's going to look the same. I'm going to have 2 triangles that represent the front and the back of this pyramid. Now you'll notice that for this particular pyramid, because it's a rectangular pyramid as opposed to a square pyramid, my front and my back triangles are larger than my left and my right pyramid triangles. So again, if I stand on the left or on the right, it's going to look like one of these 2 equilateral triangles. Front or back, I have these 2 isosceles triangles. And then finally, the bottom of the shape is just a plain rectangle. And again, this is what's called an orthographic view. I'll spell that for you. And that's just where we break it all up into its parts. Next, we're going to look at what happens if we draw our figures, our 3D shapes, onto what's called isometric dot paper. And so this is just a simple cube, and what I've done is I have some isometric dot paper, and I've drawn out my cube on there. Now, please keep in mind there's 2 different kinds of dot paper. There is standard dot paper, where all the dots line up all the way across, both horizontally and vertically. And then there's there's standard dot paper, where all of the dots, or all the points on here, line up both horizontally and vertically. And so there are an equal number of horizontal and vertical points. Then there's isometric dot paper, where it's staggered. So you'll notice this is more like a brick pattern. So I have multiple dots here, and then in the windows between those dots, right, I have another dot. And so these are staggered. So every line is staggered just off center of the previous one. Okay. What this allows me to do with the isometric dot paper is I can create 3D figures very easily. And so we're going to practice some of that in class tomorrow. The second way we're going to look at these 3D figures, these are still isometric drawings. We are looking at these with or in terms of perspective. So we have a 1 perspective and a 2 perspective. And the big difference here is going to be whether or not when you start drawing this, you start by drawing a face or if you draw an edge. So if you're drawing a face, okay, that would be this. Like I would start drawing this shape with this square, and that's the face that's closest to me. And that's how I know that this is a 1-point perspective. And what that means by 1 point is that I'm going to have 1 vanishing point. Okay? So for 1 point perspective, I have 1 vanishing point, and when I start to draw it, I'm going to start by drawing the face. If, on the other hand, I have a 2-point perspective, I will start by drawing one of the edges, call that the leading edge, and you'll notice then I have 2 vanishing points. The line that both of these vanishing points sits on is our horizon line. And that's going to be an important term as we practice these drawings in class tomorrow. So, I encourage you to look at these in the book, and we will practice doing some of these tomorrow. And again, don't forget to take the quiz at the end of the section, at the end of the video.